Hello from Vivatech in Paris, France. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Marta Krupinska. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Curate, a carbon removals platform.
So we already talked about some issues. The first, is it your opinion that we should be optimists or pessimists about climate change and runaway climate change and super bad scenarios for civilization?
Love that question. So I think if you go to my company website, curate.earth, you'll see that one of our five values is relentless possibilism. And the reason why we call ourselves relentlessly possibilistic is because we find both pessimism and optimism pretty passive approaches. The optimist is going to say, oh, somebody is going to solve climate change. And a pessimist is going to say, oh, it's doom and gloom, it's too late. And in fact, by the way, it's kind of too late, which is why we need carbon removal, because we're not decarbonizing fast enough. But possibilism for me is there is still agency that I have as an individual and as a company. And if we do everything in our power, each single one of us, I do believe it's possible to avert the worst, which is currently coming if we don't do all the things we need to do.
So possibilism, not pessimism, not optimism, possibilism, and the adjective is to be possibilistic?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Coming up with words, why not? If we can come up with companies, why not with words?
I like it. Okay, and the important message there is that there's agency.
Yeah.
If we all decide to do something, there's hope.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So if any former students are watching, and if we discuss that topic, there you go. There's an answer from somebody doing something at an exceptional scale. Do you want to mention some of your clients? Because that was super impressive today.
Thank you. So yes, Curate, we've been around just for about 18 months, but our first clients were the royal family in the UK. We removed emissions from the Queen's Jubilee pageant and then from her funeral when she passed. We also work with British Airways, with Standard Chartered Bank, with Coca-Cola. We removed emissions from the London Marathon and also organized the world's first carbon removed concerts at the O2, which is the largest arena in the world. So we're having a good mix of people that are giving us a reach in terms of 60,000 concert attendees or tens of thousands of marathon runners, as well as big corporates that have massive emissions and need to go on a pathway to net zero. And according to the IPCC and to the Science-Based Targets Initiative, there is no net zero without carbon removal. You need to abate as many emissions as possible, decarbonize as much as you can, and then you need to durably remove the rest.
Now, you said something, that the solution has to be within the current system that we have. A capitalist system, you have to show returns, you have to generate a profit. Can you explain how people make profit from, I guess, investing in solutions? Could you give us some examples of the carbon removal projects that you implement or fund or match companies to? Could you explain your business model and how it makes money for anybody?
Yeah, so I think the key piece is, let me actually tell you why I went into carbon removals.
Yeah.
This is my fourth company. The first one, unfortunately, at uni didn't work, but I learned a lot from it. And the next two scaled, we raised a lot of money and exited. I learned about carbon removal 3.5 years ago, and the reason why I decided to drop everything and do this full time is because it gave me hope. And my co-founder, who's a climate scientist that's been working on climate change for 30 years, says that we don't feel hope a lot working on climate. And why did it give me hope? It's because part of the reason why I think we're in such deep trouble with climate change is that we have a great business model for destroying the planet.
Yes.
Stuff is worth a lot.
Yeah.
When we chop down that tree or we pull oil from the ground, we don't have a business model for protecting the planet. The only way we've been doing it is through philanthropy or contributions. And
Green tourism, conservation, and then charging foreigners to look at our beautiful forests.
No, of course, and all of this is really important, but this is still based on the goodness of your heart. We have a moral imperative to protect the planet, therefore let's pay a green premium. And I think one of the things that we really need to employ to get to large-scale climate solutions that are going to help us stop climate change is to allow actors in the system right now to also make money while they're stopping climate change. So to give you an example, if we're going to get policy that regulates the use of carbon removal, and we know that according to IPCC, we're going to need 10 gigatons of carbon removal by 2050. That's 10 gigatons. This is basically the biggest industry we're ever going to have to build, faster than ever before. At the average cost of $100, and right now average is $200, that would still be about 2 to 3% of the global economy. We're talking about building a multi-trillion-dollar industry when there is an opportunity to build a $1 trillion industry, money is interested because corporates are going to try and figure out how to make money, the traders are going to want to trade it, the banks are going to want to build financial solutions for it. And if we do this right, we can direct capital that is currently going into brown projects into going into projects that are going to help stop climate change. So for instance, if you are an VC investor, if you invest money in an enhanced rock weathering company that builds measurement, reporting, and verification to be able to see the impact of spreading silicate rock on fields and it uptaking carbon, that would mean that you can participate, put your money into a project that's going to be worth a lot of money, hopefully if everything goes well. These credits are going to sequester carbon. A rock that goes onto the fields is going to increase the pH of the soils, and especially in the global south, that can increase the yield from the farms. So the money that you've invested that would otherwise just give you a financial return, in this case is giving you a financial return, and it's working hard for the planet.
Okay, so what you just mentioned, that specific example, there's a company like Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. They're paying you for the advice on how to do the carbon removal, correct?
They're in effect paying for, so they're buying carbon removal tons that I've procured for them. I'm charging a margin on the transaction, but I'm also covering my margin from the reduction in cost that I'm getting from bulk buying. So they're in effect, they don't have to pay me any consult. I'm not a consultant, I'm a platform. Okay. They buy tons that I build for them. I build portfolios, and then I take a 20% fee.
And by the way, it
is raining. We're experiencing the weather.
But you're so passionate about this. Do you want to keep going?
Yes.
Or do you want? Okay.
Sure.
You let me know when you want to get under that roof, and I'm happy to move. But this is proof for anybody watching.
So, hang on. Let's be entrepreneurial and use technology.
Amazing.
The foolproof umbrella technology.
Incredible.
To carry on.
Traditional tech saving a high tech, or an interview at a high tech venue. Okay.
There you go.
All right, let's keep going with the model to walk somebody through it. So thanks for clarifying. Somebody's paying you. You've already bought.
I'm afraid it's an extreme weather event.
Yes.
I think now we need to move.
Now we're moving.
Right.
I could pause. We'll just keep recording.
Let's keep rolling.
Yeah. Marta, thank you so much for doing this.
No worries.
All right, so to walk somebody through the steps, you've already gone then into the field, and you're the one who, for example, distributes this rock material to some farmer in Africa.
So I'm not the one. I work with companies that do that. So there are about 9 methods of carbon removal known to man and woman right now. We will work with these projects. We've looked at over 400 projects globally that do carbon removal. We will choose the best companies. Oh, that's really close.
It's for the microphone, ambient noise. The microphone picks up, so
gotcha.
It won't look as awkward online.
Well, good. So we find the best platforms, the best companies that do enhanced rock weathering in this case, and we will due diligence their method. We will verify the quality of their projects, and then we will sell these credits to clients.
Okay, there's 9 major methods. Do you want to rattle them off here?
We've got afforestation, reforestation, soil carbon, biochar, carbon removed materials, bikers, which is bio oils, BECCS, direct air capture, and ocean-based carbon removal.
Okay, so there are companies that implement those solutions. They can document and measure. I guess that's a whole other market, is
Yes.
documenting and verifying.
Yes, that's an entire different market.
So you got companies that do the carbon removal projects. You got other companies that say, look, we can prove it. They really did what they said. You then buy it up and are almost like a middleman,
Yep.
or a middle woman, a middle person, an intermediary. There, finally got it right. Between people that are actually pulling carbon out of the atmosphere and the people that that have the money that'll pay. Now, why again would Coca-Cola pay for that?
I would argue, with all due respect to Coca-Cola, that they might not right now have the technical expertise to figure out how to scan the entire market, how to choose which projects would be most appropriate for them, how to procure it, how to build contracts. Currently, we're talking about a lot of the carbon removal is going to be removed. It's going to be removed in the future. So you're basically buying a future of an asset that's unregulated. That's really complex stuff. and then you are buying it because you want to make a claim that your event organization and part of your operations are net zero, you need to make sure that you bought the right stuff. And this is the whole problem that we've seen in the carbon offset market. Offsets, which are usually protecting the forests or cook stoves. These are very important projects, but the issue is with verifying the quality of these projects.
Do you guys do some of the auditing?
So we don't audit because we believe that is a perverse incentive. The people that verify quality should not be selling. We are selling, so we work with people that do the auditing.
Now, sorry, the law professor in me, but I think anybody watching is thinking, do you think that your market could be assisted by laws, or is it better to go through this phase where it's not fully regulated? Is it more regulated than we realize? What is there a good model of regulation?
Yeah. There is no straightforward answer, but what I would say is we absolutely need regulation, and I have spent my entire life in tech. I have never seen venture capitalists be as excited about regulation as in this particular market. Without companies being mandated to pay money to operate, but to buy carbon removal, it's going to be very hard to just get them to do it out of the goodness of their hearts. So the stick of regulation, if you're emitting, the fact that you can make money is related to the fact that you are emitting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. You basically need to pay for it as if it were a tax. I think that is absolutely fundamental. It is realistic that it's going to take us about 5 years until we can get to decent regulation. We have a lot to learn, and there are already voluntary rule setters, so organizations like SBTi, ICBCM, VCMI, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, that are building rules around what constitutes a good carbon credit or what constitutes good climate action for a corporate. So there are already soft rules, but hard regulation in the shape of, the carbon market for heavy emitters already exists, is the trading scheme. So we do have that, at least in Europe and in different parts of the world. Expanding that to include carbon removals and to include more companies, I think would be the right thing to do, because we don't have time. The free market works beautifully when it has time to develop. We really need assistance from policy to move faster. And for instance, in California, obviously, probably most of you guys are American, I presume, and obviously you're...
I need to look.
But, American school. There is a law underway in California that would require all larger companies to report on their carbon emissions and to have to invest 2% of their profits into carbon removal. And I think that would be groundbreaking.
It also would be much cheaper than the long-term consequences to them that people are talking about.
Indeed.
And so are companies buying it? When you sell to a company, are they accepting that argument that, hey, this is actually cheap, what we're doing now? If you ask for 2% of revenue, is it 2% of revenue or profit? Profit. That's actually going to be cheap compared to what a 50% possible collapse in GDP people are talking about if runaway climate change happens. Is that right? Or it could be even worse, I guess.
I would love to say that it's as simple as this. I think when we think about, the average tenure of a CFO is 3 to 5 years. So the challenge is we have opposing forces. On one hand, you have executive remuneration that is predominantly linked to being able to make as much money as possible
this year.
So one of the things that I think is critical is that we link executive remuneration to ESG performance or climate performance specifically. We heard from Airbus today that this is what they're doing, and this is changing the way they work because people like money and they want to be paid. And if you're paid more for not doing the right climate thing, that the fact that three of your successors down in 2043 are going to have to spend half their money on mitigating climate change, I think for some people it's disconnected. So the moral imperative as well as regulation, the right, a mix of carrot and stick. And actually, I think we would like to talk about the carrot more. We don't just need regulation. But for instance, if you are providing net zero services, working with one of the largest catering companies in the world, if you're a catering company, if you think about scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, your supplier emissions contribute to your scope 3. If I am, say, JP Morgan, and my caterers are providing me with net zero services, that means that this is not counting towards my emissions. That means I will not have to pay the cost for those emissions when regulation hits me. So companies that provide net zero services should be able to command a net zero premium. They should be able to be celebrated in the media. I think we should absolutely look out for greenwashing, but I think greencashing can be almost as bad, because at the minute it's easier or safer for companies to do very little or nothing and not talk about it than accidentally do the wrong thing. I think we need to celebrate people that are leaders in this space and champion them as sustainability leaders, even if it's hard.
So the carrot, are you working with PR firms to help shape that message, to help it be communicated to investors, to consumers and employees that, look, what we're doing, it's good, it's audited, it's really happening, and there isn't a downside? Because remember, there is this backlash. There's like over 100 anti-ESG laws now passed or in the works in the United States. Are you working with anybody in PR to help, package how to even talk about this?
So we don't work with PR firms. We do speak a lot to the media. I had a long conversation with the new energy editor at the Financial Times yesterday. We come to conferences like this and talk about it. We have a sister NGO, so we're a VC-backed startup. We also have a sister NGO that does a lot of the more neutral sort of bridge building between policymakers, corporates, the general public, to talk about and sort of build trust in carbon removal. I'd like to be careful to say that there is no risk and there is no downside. There is always some risk, but that is endemic in just doing anything. And I find it really conflicting that, having spent my entire life in tech, recently I live in London, there was a big debate in the UK during COVID. Hundreds of millions, billions of pounds and dollars were invested in 15-minute grocery deliveries because everybody was at home and everybody was using these services, and every single one went bust. Because the business model it doesn't work in a world where you can leave the house and go to your local store and pick up your milk and cheese. And nobody is talking about that whole model being entirely broken, that we've taken a risk and tried something and it didn't work. I mean, I actually think that particular industry was a waste of time and a waste of money. But point is, if we have appetite for risk and change in software, then why wouldn't we do that in climate?
When it actually is life and death for
where it
civilization.
is life and death. So yes, some of the projects, this is also why we do a portfolio approach. Every single time I sell carbon to my clients, if I sell them 100 tons of carbon removal, underneath that there's going to be multiple different credits that come from different methods. And if one of them proves not to yield as much carbon removal as we thought it would, we can swap it out for something else. So we can remove and manage that risk for a client, but we have to recognize that some of these companies are going to get it wrong, and that has to be okay. If we're super purist about this, we're not going to innovate and get anything done.
Appropriately enough, for a conversation that relates to climate, it's now sunny. Do you need to get out of the sun?
Yeah, I mean,
Are we fine here?
Yes, I think
We also have been
fine.
going for almost 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and we need to cut off soon. But do you want to mention the companies you used to work for? Do you want to mention any lessons learned? There are people here that aspire to be like you one day.
Well,
So let's clarify what phase your company is at, where you have worked, and the lessons learned. You say you're still a startup phase. 18 months,
100%. So
but
we
you're VC backed.
Yes, so we raised $6.5 million in a pre-seed round. So our first round was pretty sizable. I think it was the largest in Europe up until the summer, from Google Ventures and a number of other prominent investors.
And by the way, here at VivaTech in Paris, what's your major goal? Is it to just education of people, or are you looking for future funders?
No, not funders. I have as the CEO founder, I have the privilege of spending this year actually building the business rather than raising money. So we raised the round last year. We'll be raising again next year. My previous fintech projects raised over 100 million. So the experience of going on tour and speaking to investors is something that I intimately know. But I suppose the thing that I would say that is perhaps useful for anybody that's watching this is, well, I'm a migrant from Krakow, Poland. I left Poland at 18 years old with absolutely no money, no contacts, and some ideas, but most of them proved to be pretty shit. I think what I would say is important is, one of the things I found is first-class strategy with second-class execution will always be worse than second-class strategy and first-class execution.
Huh.
I think I used to have a massive chip on my shoulder that I did not have an MBA, that I did not go to Stanford. How are people going to take me seriously? I didn't come from money and I didn't hang out with royalty at the weekend. But I had some good ideas. They really weren't the best ideas, but I had some good ideas, and I just executed in anger with really good people that followed me into battle, and we were able to build some pretty major things. We offered low-cost money transfers to migrant families at 1.5% cost. At the time, the Western Union would charge 10%.
Wow, you were early to that space.
We were able to do that.
Which one was that?
That was Asimo.
Asimo.
Now we're working on carbon removal at the time that no one has budgets for this, but we're able to secure clients like British Airways or the royal family.
How did you get the royal family together?
It's very long story, but
Okay.
largely through a partnership. There is an organization called A Greener Future that is a preeminent sustainability consultancy in the UK that's been working in the space for the very long time, and they were contracted by the family to look at the sustainability credentials of the royal events. And then we've been working with them where they basically heavily scrutinized whether what we could provide was good quality carbon removal, and they found us to be the most trustworthy partner because we were able to say we scanned the entire market, this is the best of the best, so much so that it would not pose a reputational threat to the family.
I don't say this often, but Marta, if there's ever a chance to work with you or for you, count me in. I love it. Can we create a hashtag execute in anger? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's exactly what
I
I
love
said.
it. You know, there's a partner, I think it's what they call it, a partner or director at Goldman, somebody I knew studying, and we both agreed on this, and I think it's what you're saying, that it's actually great to hire people with a chip on their shoulder. It's great to have a chip on your shoulder that makes you work twice as hard as other people, and that you say that executing and out hustling will actually beat somebody with what look like better credentials and a better strategy even.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Pleasure talking to you.
No, this is amazing, Marta. Huge thanks. I think this video is going to be one of the better ones. So thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you. Bardzo dziękuję.
Bardzo proszę.
And with that, we sign off from Viva Tech in Paris, France, 2024.
You could probably even
I was thinking
zoom
about
in
that.
on
Yeah.
it.
Do you want to say your last name for people who have trouble pronouncing it when they read it?
Marta Krupinska.
Krupinska. There is an accent over the end. in
There is. I've
Polski.
forgotten about it, but yes, it's there.
Ah. So there we go. There is the logo of Viva Tech in Paris, France. We really are here. This really happened. Great. Thank you one more time. Dziękuję. Do widzenia. Au revoir.